Once people get to hear from Kamala, like we saw her on that interview, she looked small, she looked meek, she couldn't even hold eye contact, she had no real novel ideas. Even the left was like, whew. She had to bring her emotional support governor with her. The whole thing was pathetic.
And if I'm her, I'm trying to find one word to summarize everything that she's thinking as Trump goes after her. And that word is really?
Exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is? What exactly is her health care plan if she no longer favors abolishing private health insurance, which just 4 short years ago when she ran for president, she did. And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing.
They're saying that Kamala might have run out of luck. You see, they posted this nice analysis saying that Biden is now out. Kamala has had this big surge, evidently, but now things are coming back down to earth. You see, a recent Wall Street Journal poll said that 48% show support for Harris. Trump's at 47%. Democratic strategist Jim Manley said, yeah, she got some luck at her sales, but how long is that going to last? All right. She held rallies with the union workers in Michigan and Pennsylvania. Biden went to Pennsylvania and basically was gone, more gone than he's ever been. I think Kamala was holding his hand, like they were holding their hands for a while. And she's like, are you done? Like, can we put you back in the coffin there, buddy? Even Harris said, let's not pay too much attention to the polls, okay? We are out here running like we are the underdog in this race because we know what we're fighting for, the underdog. You're the incumbent, literally. Trump posted on his social media, Happy Labor Day. Under Comrade Kamala, all Americans are suffering during this holiday weekend. Yeah, things are expensive out there. Harris is defending herself on changes. Trump's adjusting on abortion. And they say Trump's had some pretty mediocre opponents out there. We'll see how this works for Kamala. The coming debate is going to be a test for both of them. Chris LaCivita, Trump's campaign manager, said the debate provides an opportunity to press on issues on what your true position is. And they keep trying to frame themselves as the underdogs, even though she's the vice president of the United States. Trump has come out with a new campaign ad, and he is torching Kamala Harris. Kamala is responsible for a lot of damage, and Trump's new ad exposes it in 1 minute.
We did it. We did it, Joe. Everyday prices are too high. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead.
True.
And prices are still too high.
Yeah, it's true.
We did it, Joe. For many families, not much left at the end of the month. Costs are still too high. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. We did it.
You've been in charge.
There's a serious housing shortage.
Yeah.
In many places, it's too difficult to build.
Yeah.
And it's driving prices up. We did it, Joe. That as the price of housing has gone up, the size of down payments have gone up as well. The bills add up. We did it, Joe.
Yep, Kamala, you did it. Americans are paying the price. Kamala Harris failed. Weak leadership. Dangerously liberal. Paid for by Donald Trump. I'm Donald Trump and I approve this message. All right, so you can see that is a nice one. We did it, Joe. You sure did. Now, Kamala is looking like she might be having a hard time in some swing state polling. New results have come out. You see, The Hill will tell us that there are close races in these key swing states. Says Kamala and Trump are locked in close races. No clear leader emerging in 3 battleground states, Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania. Which means Trump's probably up by 5 points. And we're going to zoom in on Pennsylvania because there's a great clip from Mark Halperin, and he exposes what he is finding there from the insiders. The surveys published Wednesday show Harris leading Trump 48-47, tied 47 in Pennsylvania. We'll come back on that. The vice president's advantage in Georgia and Nevada fall within each state's margin of error. Harris, meanwhile, leads 50-44 in Wisconsin, 48-43% in Michigan. Trump pulls off 49-44 in Arizona. Let's go! Before they rig this one again. I'm sure on election day, all the ballot machines will break again. I don't know. There's a software update. The paper sizes don't match again. Biden carried all 6 states in 2020. But Georgia and Pennsylvania will prove critical for either candidate in 2024. In those states, among likely voters who say they've already picked a candidate, 11% in the Peach State say they might change their minds, while 15% say that the same in Keystone State. Harris has also enjoyed a polling boost since replacing Biden because the Democrats were so elated. In the Hill, she leads Trump 49-45, and in each state, there were similar results. Harris's polling average in 3 battleground states of Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, so similar results to CNN. In each state, Harris's lead falls short short of a full percentage point. It's like neck and neck. The Democratic nominee's strongest advantage is in Wisconsin, still 3.4 points, and that needs to close. That's ridiculous. In Michigan, she's ahead by an average of 1.6 points, and that's curious because in Wisconsin, 2020, Trump, I think, only lost Wisconsin by 11, 12,000 votes, maybe 17, something in there. Not huge numbers. Definitely not 6 digits. Michigan, it was 6 digits. It was like 190,000. But Michigan is where Jocelyn Benson is, and she's the same one who was trying the presumptive signatures. Remember that? She's virtually tied with her GOP rival in Arizona. CNN was conducted with those results. Now, there's some reaction from this fella. Two Way is a nice new podcast if you're interested in some more detailed political analysis. This guy is Mark Halperin. He's been a political analyst, journalist, author for a long time, been very involved in this stuff for decades, I believe. And he's part of this new Two Way TV app, which is an interesting platform. So he posted this talking about Pennsylvania, and there was some interesting analysis. Now, this mirrors what even Democratic insiders like John Fetterman, who is the senator from Pennsylvania, had to say about it. He came out and said, yeah, he thinks Trump's going to win Pennsylvania, and he didn't go into a lot of detail on that during the interview with him, but you might understand why. But here is what Mark Halperin, definite political insider, is saying about this.
Let's talk about Michigan. New poll in Michigan out tonight from TV station WDIV and the Detroit News. The horse race is tied. It depends on if you look at the 5-way, the 3-way, depends on if you look at likely or registered voters, but it's basically tied. But I want to show you 3 questions from this poll related to who do you trust more on an issue. And you can see that it's the same old familiar story. Trump has huge advantages on these issues that are the most important issues to voters, and yet he's tied, showing that obviously there's other things dragging him down. So first, Trump versus Harris in Michigan on the economy. Let's take a look at that number. Go ahead and pin that and unpin me over Harris, 51-39. Next, who do you trust on immigration? Throughout. So Pennsylvania, key to the whole race right now in terms of the Electoral College. I've been asking people 2 questions in the state, national strategists and campaigns. 2 questions. One is, who's currently ahead in Pennsylvania, and where does Pennsylvania rank in terms of 1 through 7 of the states Harris is most likely to win? 1, it would be Wisconsin or Michigan. Then the question is, where's Pennsylvania? Some people have it as high as 3rd. Some people have it as low as 6th. One of my sources gave me a list and put it at 6th, and that led to the highlight of my day, which is, I hope we have that picture. There's very few places of honor in American political coverage, political journalism, that difficult to obtain, but not everyone can get this as part of their day. There I am, ladies and gentlemen, on Karl Rove's whiteboard.
The whiteboard.
That is prime real estate in American political.
All right, so most likely Harris.
Politica. And so Karl took this list that my source gave me and thought it was my list. I feel bad because I could see why he thought that. But as you can see here, this source of mine, who I trust very much, very smart person, puts Pennsylvania 6th, the 6th most likely state for Harris to win. If that's true and Harris loses Pennsylvania, she's almost certainly not going to win. There are mathematical ways for her to win. Some of them go beyond mathematics, but very tough for her to win if she doesn't win Pennsylvania. I talked to 2 people today, Democrats who know the state very well, and they both said that they thought Harris not only was behind in Pennsylvania today, but they thought she was likely to lose the state. They didn't rule out that she could win it, but they thought it was unlikely. And if you believe that, what these people believe, and if you believe that what my source does, that her chances of winning Pennsylvania are quite low, you can't make her the favorite. And you almost can't even say this race is a toss-up, because Harris without Pennsylvania is not in a competitive competition. She could win it, but it's not a tied race. If you read Nate Silver's endless discussion of his model, you'll see that the main reason that he has, amongst the main reasons, I think he might say it is the main reason, but it's amongst the main reasons, even though he believes Harris is winning in the polling, he has Trump with a better chance of winning. Big part of it is, he says, because he doesn't think she's necessarily ahead in Pennsylvania, and her chances without Pennsylvania are so low.
So good stuff. And I'm sure that has them a little bit panicked. They can't be happy about that. And they're trying to figure out what to do about all this. Should Kamala break away from President Biden or stick with his trajectory? They can't really settle on this. And so on Tuesday's broadcast, Abby Phillip said that Kamala is not breaking with Joe Biden, actually standing by him. Here's what CNN commented.
Only 2 months now until the election, only 7 days, though, until the debate. And James Carville has some unsolicited, I think, advice for Kamala Harris.
7 days till the debate. Kamala must be sweating her.
The first, Carville says,
butt
is
off.
that Harris has to let Trump sink himself at this next debate. The next one, Harris needs to highlight her policy differences with President Biden, something that she has yet to do. And finally, Harris must show that she has grown out of some of her political stances when she ran for president in 2020. 2020. With us now is pollster Frank Luntz. He's joining us in our fifth seat at the table. Frank, first of all, do you agree with those 3 points from James Carville? I mean, is that really the formula for this next debate for her?
I'm not convinced. Now, I'm going to follow what James Carville says because he's had years of success. But that said, Trump's strongest position right now is the policy differences between him and Harris. Inflation, which I call affordability. Immigration, which I talk about national security and the sense of safety and security. These are areas where Trump has the advantage. If it's about personas, if it's about character, she wins, and she'll win easily. If it's about policy, Trump has a 10-point advantage on affordability, a 10-point...
I totally disagree with that. So a policy, yeah, I agree. But once people get to hear from Kamala, like we saw her on that interview, she looked small, she looked meek, she couldn't even hold eye contact, she had no real novel ideas. Even the left was like, whew. She had to bring her emotional support governor with her. The whole thing was pathetic. And as people get to know her more, she comes down in the polls again and again and again. She cackles. She illegally incarcerated a bunch of criminal defendants who happened to be black. She was a prosecutor for years. But then wanted to defund the police or whatever that was, get people out of custody in the 3rd precinct. And she's not intelligent. She fakes being on phone calls, right? She just can't handle the job. And when she's on the debate stage, I think people will see that. So we'll see if Frank Luntz is right about this.
12-point advantage on immigration, so he has to go. And the problem for Trump is he has the inability to do that. He has no self-control. He can't keep his criticisms. And if I'm her, I'm trying to find one word to summarize everything that she's thinking as Trump goes after her. And that word is really?
I have a feeling that
With
we might hear that. I mean, I feel like at this table, we've been talking about exactly that over the last, 6 weeks. Basically, since Kamala Harris came into this race as the top of the ticket, Trump's inability to make the case against her is the biggest thing. And it also has allowed her to not actually really break with Biden in a lot of ways. Her interview with CNN last week, she was running on, but she didn't break with Joe Biden. And that seemed to me to be a very clear, concerted choice on her part.
Yeah, well, why would she? I mean, until forced, right? And then even if you take Carville seriously, that she's got a break with him, you can do that implicitly as well. In other words, you don't have to say, hey, I don't even like what Biden did or what he did, I'm doing differently. You just announce your set of priorities, things that you find important, underscore them, and then take what was good from Joe Biden and extend it. And the things that you want to leave aside, you can do so. When you sit down to a meal and you don't like the whole thing, you don't just trash the whole thing. You pick and choose. And I think she's capable of doing that.
So it's not a break then. So when Carville's arguing for a break, this guy's saying, no, don't break. Why would you? Well, because the Biden policies were bad, because the border's bad. The Ukraine conflict is not resolved. We've got another conflict that is hot as hell in Gaza and Israel. We've got a lot of problems. Inflation's out of control. People are tired of that, right? We've got a housing problem. We've got a crime problem. Those are the things. So if Harris doesn't break with those, then I guess we can suppose that she endorses them, would be the theory. But Vivek did a great job of explaining the truth about Kamala and the differences between Trump and the Biden-Harris hyphenated policies, which will continue on under Kamala and theoretically get worse because we know her values. They really haven't changed. She just has to manipulate them in order to lie to her voters about who she actually is.
You brought up some claims about Kamala Harris. I want to finish that discussion. She said she didn't favor a ban on fracking now. The reality is she was one of the strongest proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. She didn't just favor the abolition of private health insurance. She was a co-sponsor of the bill with Bernie Sanders as a U.S. Senator for Medicare for All for Americans. The reality is, when you think about the Green New Deal, she was the chief proponent, not just as a co-sponsor of the legislation, but going further and saying she would end the filibuster in the Senate to ram that through. So the reality is she can say what she wants to say now. Those are actions she has taken.
California liberal.
Is someone allowed to evolve? Of course they are. But she deserves to explain exactly why she's changed those positions, exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is it? What exactly is her healthcare plan if she no longer favors abolishing private health insurance, which just 4 short years ago when she ran for president, she did? And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing. I think Donald Trump has received plenty of scrutiny, and I give credit to him for sitting for hostile interviews that Kamala Harris has not.
And she's going to continue to avoid that. And CNN should be the people demanding an actual interview, all right? Not Dana Bash, who is a friendly, and we're critical, right? Trump's going to be doing a town hall with Sean Hannity tonight. And we're excited about that. At least he's sitting down talking with somebody for an hour. That's friendly territory. We acknowledge that. But Trump also goes into unfriendly territory and has conversations with basically anybody. In fact, he went on with Jake Tapper and Dana Bash as well for the debate and has done interviews with many people, including Kristen Welker and others, who are no fans of Trump. And Kamala cannot do that. And the media put Dana out there. Dana asked about Tim Walz's kids and Kamala Harris's nephew. Very fun. We got 18 minutes of Kamala, and 4 of those minutes were talked about Kamala's nephew and other platitudes. No follow-up about the actual specific fracking change. So do you now support it? Like, you're in favor of new fracking projects being approved in Pennsylvania? Is that what you're saying to us? Okay, thank you. Just her values have stayed the same.